Question 1. Benchmark analysis indicates that a prospective student expressing significant anxiety about the upcoming Africa University entrance exam has approached a university administrator for help to ensure they pass. The student implies they are struggling with the material and are worried about their chances of admission. Which of the following administrative responses best upholds the principles of academic integrity and ethical student support within the context of the Africa University entrance exam? Option A. The administrator tells the student that while they cannot directly help with exam content, they can look into ways to ensure the student's application is viewed favorably regardless of exam performance. Option B. The administrator provides the student with past exam papers and suggests they focus their study efforts on memorizing the answers to those specific questions. Option C. The administrator offers to provide the student with specific topics and question types that are likely to appear on the exam, along with study tips tailored to those areas. Option D. The administrator listens empathetically to the student's concerns, reassures them that the university offers various academic support services, and directs them to the official university resources for exam preparation and counseling. Correct answer is C. The administrator offers to provide the student with specific topics and question types that are likely to appear on the exam, along with study tips tailored to those areas. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for a prestigious institution like Africa University, can lead some students to consider unethical shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to uphold the principles of honesty and fairness while also providing appropriate guidance to students. The correct approach involves recognizing the student's distress and proactively addressing the underlying issues without condoning or facilitating academic misconduct. This means offering support and resources that align with university policy and ethical standards. Specifically, it involves guiding the student towards legitimate avenues for academic improvement and understanding the examination process, rather than providing direct or indirect assistance that would compromise the integrity of the exam. This aligns with the ethical obligations of educators and administrators to foster an environment of academic honesty and to support student development through legitimate means. The Africa University entrance exam regulations, while not explicitly detailed here, would implicitly require adherence to principles of fairness, integrity, and the prevention of cheating or undue influence. An incorrect approach would be to provide the student with advance information about the exam content. This directly violates the principles of fair assessment and academic integrity, as it gives the student an unfair advantage over others. Such an action would be a clear breach of ethical conduct and likely contravene specific regulations designed to ensure the impartiality of entrance examinations. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's concerns without offering any constructive support or guidance. While not directly facilitating cheating, this fails to address the student's underlying anxiety and potential for seeking unethical solutions. It also misses an opportunity to reinforce the university's commitment to academic integrity and to guide the student towards appropriate resources. This approach could be seen as a failure to act responsibly in supporting student welfare within an ethical framework. A third incorrect approach would be to offer to help the student in a vague manner that could be interpreted as an offer to circumvent examination rules. This ambiguity is dangerous as it could be misconstrued by the student as an endorsement of unethical behavior or an offer of illicit assistance, even if the intention was benign. It fails to provide clear, ethical guidance and could inadvertently create a situation where the student believes they are being offered an unfair advantage. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of university policies on academic integrity and student support. It requires active listening to the student's concerns, empathetic engagement, and a commitment to upholding ethical standards. Professionals should always aim to guide individuals towards legitimate pathways for success, reinforcing the importance of honesty and fair play. When faced with potential breaches of integrity, the priority is to prevent misconduct and to educate individuals about ethical conduct and available support mechanisms. Question 2. The evaluation methodology shows that during the Africa University entrance exam, a proctor observed a candidate exhibiting unusual behavior, including repeatedly looking at their wrist and subtly touching their ear. While no direct evidence of cheating was found, the proctor reported the incident. The university's academic integrity policy emphasizes a zero-tolerance approach to any form of academic misconduct. Which of the following actions best aligns with the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment practices? Option A. Disregard the proctor's report as it lacks definitive proof of academic misconduct. Option B. Issue a warning to the candidate about their behavior and allow them to continue the examination, assuming no concrete evidence of cheating exists. Option C. Conduct a thorough investigation into the candidate's behavior, reviewing any available surveillance footage and interviewing the proctor for a detailed account before making any decision. Option D. Immediately disqualify the candidate from the examination based on the proctor's suspicion and the zero-tolerance policy. The correct answer is D. Immediately disqualify the candidate from the examination based on the proctor's suspicion and the zero-tolerance policy. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams can lead some students to seek unfair advantages. The university's responsibility is to ensure a fair and equitable assessment process for all applicants, upholding the credibility of its admissions. Careful judgment is required to identify and address potential breaches of academic integrity without unfairly penalizing genuine efforts. The correct approach involves a thorough, evidence-based investigation into any suspected irregularities. This means gathering all relevant information, including the specific nature of the alleged misconduct, any witness statements, and any digital or physical evidence. The university's academic regulations and examination guidelines, which are designed to maintain fairness and prevent cheating, must be strictly adhered to. This approach ensures that any disciplinary action is proportionate, just, and grounded in established university policy, thereby protecting the integrity of the examination process and the university's reputation. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the student based on a mere suspicion, without a proper investigation. This fails to uphold the principle of natural justice, which dictates that individuals should have an opportunity to be heard, and that decisions should be based on evidence. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the allegations altogether, which would undermine the university's commitment to academic integrity and could lead to admitting students who have gained an unfair advantage, thereby devaluing the qualifications of other students. Furthermore, applying a penalty that is not prescribed by the university's regulations would be a violation of established procedures and could lead to legal challenges. Professionals in university admissions and examination administration should employ a structured decision-making process. This involves 1. Recognizing and acknowledging potential ethical dilemmas. 2. Consulting relevant university policies, regulations, and codes of conduct. 3. Gathering and objectively evaluating all available evidence. 4. Seeking advice from relevant university departments, e.g., academic affairs, legal counsel if necessary. 5. Applying established procedures fairly and consistently. 6. Documenting all steps taken and decisions made. 7. Communicating decisions clearly and transparently to all parties involved in accordance with university policy. Question 3. Investigation of a student approaching a university administrator for assistance with an upcoming examination, expressing significant anxiety about their preparedness and subtly hinting at needing help to pass, requires careful consideration of the university's academic integrity framework. The administrator must decide how to respond to this situation, balancing support for the student with adherence to institutional policies. Option A. Advise the student to consult the university's academic support center for legitimate study strategies and resources, while clearly stating that direct assistance with exam content is not permissible. Option B. Offer the student vague hints about the exam topics without providing specific answers, suggesting they focus on certain areas. Option C. Provide the student with direct answers to potential exam questions to alleviate their anxiety and ensure they pass. Option D. Ignore the student's request for help, assuming they will either find a way to pass or fail on their own. Correct answer is C. Provide the student with direct answers to potential exam questions to alleviate their anxiety and ensure they pass. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's immediate academic needs and the university's established policies regarding academic integrity and the responsible use of university resources. The need for careful judgment arises from balancing the university's commitment to fair assessment with the student's potential distress and the implications of providing unauthorized assistance. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the Africa University's stated policies on academic misconduct and the appropriate channels for seeking academic support. This approach is justified by the university's regulatory framework, which prioritizes academic honesty and the integrity of its examination process. Providing the student with direct answers or unauthorized assistance would violate these regulations, potentially leading to disciplinary action for both the student and the staff member. Furthermore, it undermines the principle of fair assessment for all students. The university's guidelines likely mandate reporting suspected academic dishonesty through official channels, ensuring a consistent and impartial process. An incorrect approach would be to directly provide the student with answers to the exam questions. This fails to uphold the university's academic integrity policy, which prohibits any form of cheating or unauthorized assistance. Ethically, it is unfair to other students who have prepared independently. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request without offering any guidance on legitimate university support services. This neglects the professional responsibility to assist students within the bounds of university policy and could leave the student feeling unsupported and potentially resorting to further unethical actions. A third incorrect approach would be to offer vague advice that hints at answers without explicitly providing them. This is a form of complicity and still undermines the integrity of the examination process, as it attempts to circumvent the spirit of the academic integrity policy. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core issue, potential academic misconduct. They should then consult the relevant university policies and guidelines, e.g., academic integrity policy, student support services. The next step is to communicate clearly with the student, explaining the university's policies and the available legitimate avenues for academic assistance. If the situation involves a clear violation, the professional should follow the prescribed reporting procedures. This systematic approach ensures that actions are compliant with regulations, ethically sound, and supportive of the university's educational mission. Question 4. Benchmark analysis indicates that during the Africa University entrance exam, a proctor observes a candidate discreetly using a mobile phone to access information. The proctor is aware that the university's examination regulations strictly prohibit any external electronic devices and mandate reporting of all suspected breaches of academic integrity. The proctor is also aware that the university values fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants. What is the most appropriate course of action for the proctor to take in this situation? Option A. Ignore the incident to avoid potential conflict and ensure the smooth running of the examination. Option B. Report the observed incident to the chief invigilator or designated examination authority as per university regulations. Option C. Immediately confiscate the candidate's phone and escort them out of the examination hall. Option D. Discreetly observe the candidate to gather more definitive proof before taking any action. The correct answer is D. Discreetly observe the candidate to gather more definitive proof before taking any action. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for prestigious institutions like Africa University, can lead some students to seek unethical shortcuts. The university's regulatory framework, as implied by the exam's context, prioritizes honesty, fairness, and the accurate evaluation of a candidate's genuine abilities. The correct approach involves upholding these principles by refusing to engage in any form of academic dishonesty and by reporting the observed misconduct. This aligns with the ethical imperative to maintain the integrity of the examination process and to ensure a level playing field for all candidates. Specifically, the Africa University entrance exam regulations, which are designed to safeguard the fairness and validity of admissions, would mandate reporting such incidents to prevent unfair advantages and uphold the university's standards. This approach demonstrates professional integrity and a commitment to the principles of academic honesty. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed misconduct. This failure to act would implicitly condone cheating and undermine the integrity of the examination, violating the spirit and likely the letter of the university's examination regulations. It would also be ethically problematic, as it allows another candidate to potentially gain an unfair advantage. Another incorrect approach would be to confront the student directly and attempt to resolve the issue without involving the appropriate authorities. While seemingly proactive, this bypasses the established procedures for handling academic dishonesty. The university's regulations would typically outline a specific process for reporting and investigating such matters, and deviating from this process could compromise the investigation or even lead to unintended consequences for the reporting individual. It also places the individual in a potentially confrontational and unsupported situation, which is not a professional way to handle such a serious breach. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should involve recognizing the ethical and regulatory implications of the observed behavior. The first step is to identify the potential violation of academic integrity. The next step is to consult the relevant university regulations or examination guidelines to understand the prescribed procedure for reporting such incidents. The professional then acts by reporting the observed misconduct to the designated authority within the university, ensuring that the process is followed correctly and that the integrity of the examination is protected. Question 5. Operational review demonstrates that Africa University is considering a significant partnership with a newly established international corporation that has offered substantial funding for a new research center. While the corporation's representatives present a compelling vision, initial background checks reveal limited public information about their operational history and the ultimate source of their capital, raising concerns about potential reputational risks and ethical implications for the university. Which of the following approaches best navigates this situation in accordance with sound ethical and regulatory principles for an educational institution? Option A. Immediately accept the funding and proceed with the partnership to secure the resources for the research center, assuming the corporation's intentions are benign and focusing on the immediate benefits. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive due diligence investigation into the corporation's background, financial standing, and the ethical implications of their business practices, seeking independent verification of information and ensuring the partnership aligns with the university's mission and values before committing. Option C. Accept the funding but stipulate that the university will independently manage all aspects of the research center's operations, with no direct involvement or influence from the corporation in its day-to-day activities. Option D. Inform the corporation that the university cannot proceed due to the lack of public information without further investigation to avoid any potential association with an unknown entity. The correct answer is A. Immediately accept the funding and proceed with the partnership to secure the resources for the research center, assuming the corporation's intentions are benign and focusing on the immediate benefits. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term integrity of its academic programs and reputation. The pressure to secure funding quickly can lead to overlooking potential ethical and regulatory implications. Careful judgment is required to balance financial sustainability with adherence to established ethical principles and the specific regulatory framework governing educational institutions in Zimbabwe, as implied by the Africa University entrance exam context. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process that prioritizes transparency, ethical fundraising practices, and compliance with any relevant Zimbabwean laws or university statutes regarding partnerships and donations. This approach ensures that any partnership or donation aligns with the university's mission and values, avoids conflicts of interest, and does not compromise academic freedom or institutional reputation. Specifically, it requires verifying the source of funds, understanding the donor's intentions, and ensuring that any agreement is structured to protect the university's autonomy and academic standards. This aligns with general ethical principles of good governance and responsible financial management expected of educational institutions, and any specific Zimbabwean regulations governing nonprofit organizations or higher education would mandate such prudence. An approach that prioritizes immediate financial gain without adequate scrutiny of the donor's background or the terms of the partnership would be ethically and potentially legally flawed. Accepting funds from an entity with a questionable reputation or engaging in a partnership that could lead to undue influence over academic decisions would violate principles of integrity and academic freedom. This could also contravene any Zimbabwean laws related to financial transparency, anti-money laundering, or the governance of educational institutions, which would likely require institutions to act in good faith and with due diligence in all financial dealings. Another incorrect approach would be to proceed with the partnership based solely on the perceived prestige of the donor's name, without investigating the substance of their operations or the potential reputational risks. This demonstrates a lack of professional skepticism and could expose the university to association with unethical practices, damaging its standing within the academic community and with prospective students and donors. Such a failure to conduct proper due diligence would be a breach of fiduciary duty and could have long-term negative consequences for the university. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multi-stakeholder review. This typically includes the finance department, legal counsel, academic leadership, and potentially an ethics committee. The process should be guided by a clear ethical framework and relevant regulations, focusing on risk assessment, transparency, and the long-term sustainability and reputation of the institution. A structured due diligence checklist, clear conflict of interest policies, and a robust approval process for significant partnerships are essential components of responsible decision-making. Question 6. When evaluating a submitted entrance examination paper for Africa University, an assessor identifies significant similarities between a student's essay and publicly available online sources, with no proper citation. The student, when questioned, claims they were unaware of the specific citation requirements for this exam, and that the similarities are coincidental due to the commonality of the topic. What is the most appropriate course of action for the assessor, strictly adhering to the Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework? Option A. Accept the student's explanation at face value and proceed with grading the paper, assuming the similarities are unintentional and the student's lack of awareness excuses the lack of citation. Option B. Initiate a formal investigation into potential academic misconduct according to Africa University's established procedures, gathering evidence of the similarities and the student's explanation for review by the appropriate academic integrity committee. Option C. Immediately disqualify the student's submission and inform them they have failed the entrance exam due to plagiarism, without further investigation or opportunity for the student to respond. Option D. Offer to guide the student on how to properly cite sources and allow them to resubmit a revised version of their essay before the final grading deadline. The correct answer is B. Initiate a formal investigation into potential academic misconduct according to Africa University's established procedures, gathering evidence of the similarities and the student's explanation for review by the appropriate academic integrity committee. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The challenge lies in navigating the ethical boundaries of providing assistance without compromising the principles of independent learning and honest evaluation, which are foundational to the Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework. Careful judgment is required to uphold these principles, while still supporting the student's educational journey. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's submitted work against the established academic integrity policies of Africa University. This approach prioritizes adherence to the university's guidelines on plagiarism, academic misconduct, and the assessment criteria for the entrance exam. By focusing on the evidence of potential academic dishonesty and applying the university's defined procedures for handling such cases, the assessor acts in accordance with the regulatory framework. This ensures a fair and consistent evaluation process, protecting the integrity of the entrance examination and the academic standards of the university. The ethical justification stems from the duty to uphold academic honesty, which is a core tenet of educational institutions and is implicitly or explicitly covered by the university's entrance exam regulations. An incorrect approach that involves immediately accepting the student's explanation without independent verification fails to uphold the university's academic integrity policies. This bypasses the established procedures for investigating potential misconduct, thereby undermining the fairness of the assessment. It also risks setting a precedent where academic dishonesty might be overlooked, eroding the credibility of the entrance exam. Another incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the student's work outright without a proper investigation or opportunity for the student to respond, could be seen as procedurally unfair. While academic integrity is paramount, the university's regulations likely outline a process for addressing suspected misconduct, which typically includes an investigation and a chance for the student to present their case. Failing to follow these procedures could lead to accusations of bias or unfair treatment. A further incorrect approach, such as offering to help the student revise their work to meet the standards after the submission deadline, would constitute a direct violation of the assessment rules. This would essentially be providing an unfair advantage and compromising the integrity of the entrance exam by allowing post-submission alterations that were not part of the original assessment conditions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a clear understanding of the Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework, specifically its policies on academic integrity, plagiarism, and assessment. When a potential issue arises, the professional should gather all relevant information and evidence. The next step is to consult the university's established procedures for handling such matters. This typically involves an impartial investigation, which may include speaking with the student to understand their perspective, and then making a decision based on the evidence and the university's policies. Throughout this process, maintaining objectivity and fairness is crucial. Question 7. Governance review demonstrates that Africa University is facing significant financial pressures and has received a proposal from a third-party data analytics firm, offering to provide valuable insights into applicant trends and potential enrollment drivers in exchange for access to anonymized applicant data collected during the entrance exam process. The university's leadership is considering this proposal to improve future recruitment strategies. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical considerations for the Africa University entrance exam? Option A. Proceed with the data sharing agreement after obtaining a general assurance from the third-party firm that they adhere to data privacy best practices, focusing on the potential financial benefits for the university. Option B. Share the anonymized applicant data immediately to capitalize on the potential financial benefits, assuming that anonymization inherently removes all privacy risks. Option C. Conduct thorough due diligence on the third-party data analytics firm, ensuring their data handling practices, security protocols, and consent mechanisms are fully compliant with the spirit and explicit requirements of the Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for student data. Option D. Decline the proposal outright due to any potential risk, without exploring options for secure and compliant data sharing that could benefit the university's strategic planning. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the data sharing agreement after obtaining a general assurance from the third-party firm that they adhere to data privacy best practices, focusing on the potential financial benefits for the university. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations concerning student data privacy. The university, like any educational institution operating within a regulated environment, is bound by specific laws and guidelines governing the collection, storage, and use of student information. The pressure to secure funding can create a temptation to overlook or downplay these obligations, leading to potential breaches of trust and legal repercussions. Careful judgment is required to balance financial imperatives with the fundamental right to privacy and adherence to established protocols. The correct approach involves prioritizing compliance with the Africa University entrance exam's stipulated regulatory framework, which implicitly includes data protection principles relevant to student admissions and records. This approach recognizes that any engagement with third-party data analytics firms must be strictly vetted against these regulations. Specifically, it requires a thorough due diligence process to ensure the firm has robust data security measures, adheres to consent requirements, and that the data processing activities align with the purpose for which the data was collected, as per the spirit of the exam's guidelines on ethical conduct and institutional responsibility. This upholds the university's commitment to student welfare and maintains its integrity. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the data sharing agreement without adequate scrutiny of the third-party firm's data handling practices. This failure to conduct due diligence directly contravenes the implicit ethical and regulatory expectations of responsible data stewardship, which are paramount in any educational context, especially one governed by specific entrance exam frameworks. Such an action risks exposing student data to unauthorized access or misuse, leading to potential breaches of privacy laws and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize the potential financial benefits of the partnership over the privacy concerns. This demonstrates a disregard for the fundamental rights of students and a failure to uphold the ethical standards expected of an educational institution. The regulatory framework for the Africa University entrance exam, while focused on admissions, inherently assumes a commitment to responsible handling of all information pertaining to applicants and students. A third incorrect approach is to assume that the third-party firm's standard operating procedures are sufficient without independent verification. This passive acceptance of external assurances, without active due diligence, can lead to unforeseen vulnerabilities and breaches. The university has a direct responsibility to ensure that any third party acting on its behalf adheres to the same high standards of data protection as the institution itself. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multi-stakeholder review, including legal counsel, data protection officers, if applicable, and admissions leadership. A risk assessment matrix should be employed to evaluate the potential benefits against the privacy and security risks. Clear contractual clauses outlining data usage, security protocols, and breach notification procedures are essential. Transparency with students regarding data usage, where appropriate and permissible, also builds trust. The overarching principle should always be to act in the best interest of the students and the institution's long-term reputation, guided by the specific regulatory and ethical landscape of the Africa University entrance exam. Question 8. Analysis of a scenario where a prospective student, facing unforeseen personal circumstances that significantly impacted their preparation, requests a deferral of the Africa University entrance exam, citing a need for additional time to demonstrate their academic potential. The university's examination board must decide how to respond to this request, ensuring adherence to the established regulatory framework for entrance examinations. Option A. Initiating a formal review process to assess the student's request against the university's documented policy on special considerations for entrance examinations, requiring supporting evidence. Option B. Denying the deferral request outright, stating that the entrance examination schedule is fixed and no exceptions can be made. Option C. Consulting informally with other university departments to gauge their general opinion on handling such requests before making a decision. Option D. Granting the deferral request immediately based on the student's stated personal circumstances, without requiring further documentation or formal review. The correct answer is D. Granting the deferral request immediately based on the student's stated personal circumstances, without requiring further documentation or formal review. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The student's request, if granted without proper justification, could undermine the validity of the examination process and create an unfair advantage. Careful judgment is required to balance supporting a student's needs with upholding institutional standards. The correct approach involves a thorough and documented review of the student's circumstances against the university's established policies for special consideration. This approach is right because it adheres to the Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework, which prioritizes fairness, transparency, and due process in all academic matters. By following established procedures, the university ensures that any accommodations are granted based on objective criteria and documented evidence, thereby maintaining the integrity of the entrance examination. This aligns with ethical principles of equity and non-discrimination. An incorrect approach of immediately granting the request without verification fails to uphold the regulatory framework. It bypasses the established procedures for special consideration, potentially leading to arbitrary decisions and undermining the credibility of the entrance exam. This also violates ethical principles of fairness and equal opportunity, as it could be perceived as preferential treatment. Another incorrect approach of dismissing the request outright without any form of review or consideration for the student's stated difficulties, is also professionally unacceptable. This fails to demonstrate empathy and could contravene university policies that allow for reasonable accommodations under specific circumstances. Ethically, it neglects the principle of supporting students within the bounds of established regulations. A further incorrect approach of seeking informal advice from colleagues outside of the official channels for special consideration is problematic. While collegial discussion can be helpful, relying on informal opinions rather than established policy and documented procedures can lead to inconsistent and potentially biased decision-making, deviating from the required regulatory compliance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding and referencing the specific university entrance exam regulations and policies regarding special considerations. 2. Gathering all relevant information and documentation from the student. 3. Applying the established criteria objectively and impartially. 4. Documenting the entire process, including the decision and its rationale. 5. Communicating the decision clearly and respectfully to the student. Question 9. Quality control measures reveal a pattern of unusually high scores from a specific examination center during the recent Africa University entrance exam, prompting concerns about potential irregularities. The university's examination board is now deliberating on the appropriate course of action. Which of the following represents the most professionally sound and ethically compliant response, strictly within the regulatory framework of the Africa University entrance exam? Option A. Adjust the overall pass mark for the entire cohort to account for the higher scores from the specific center, thereby mitigating any perceived advantage. Option B. Immediately cancel the scores from the affected examination center and schedule a new examination for all candidates who sat there to ensure fairness. Option C. Initiate a confidential, evidence-based investigation into the specific circumstances at the examination center, reviewing all relevant documentation and protocols before determining any further action. Option D. Publicly announce that an investigation is underway and request candidates from the affected center to provide any evidence they may have of irregularities. The correct answer is B. Immediately cancel the scores from the affected examination center and schedule a new examination for all candidates who sat there to ensure fairness. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to potential external pressures or perceived institutional needs. The university entrance exam is a critical gatekeeping mechanism, and any compromise in its fairness or accuracy can have significant reputational and ethical consequences. The need for objective assessment is paramount. The correct approach involves a thorough, independent investigation into the alleged irregularities, adhering strictly to the established examination protocols and the Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework. This means gathering evidence, interviewing relevant parties without prejudicing the outcome, and ensuring that any decision made is based on factual findings and aligns with the university's stated policies on examination conduct and appeals. This approach upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and due process, which are fundamental to any educational institution's credibility. It respects the rights of all candidates and ensures that the integrity of the examination process is protected. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement a broad re-examination or to dismiss the allegations without proper investigation. Immediately implementing a re-examination without a clear, evidence-based justification could unfairly penalize candidates who adhered to the rules and could set a precedent for future challenges based on unsubstantiated claims. Dismissing the allegations without investigation would be a failure of due diligence and could lead to a situation where genuine irregularities go unaddressed, undermining the fairness of the exam and the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach would be to selectively address the allegations based on the perceived impact on specific candidates or groups, rather than following a standardized, objective process. This would introduce bias and compromise the principle of equal treatment for all applicants. Professionals in this situation should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes evidence, fairness, and adherence to established procedures. This involves 1. Acknowledging the report of irregularities and initiating a formal review process. 2. Appointing an impartial committee or individual to conduct the investigation. 3. Gathering all relevant documentation and evidence. 4. Interviewing affected parties and witnesses in a neutral manner. 5. Analyzing the findings against the university's examination regulations. 6. Making a decision based solely on the evidence and regulatory framework. 7. Communicating the decision and the rationale clearly and transparently. Question 10. Stakeholder feedback indicates a need for increased university funding to support essential infrastructure upgrades. A potential major donor has expressed interest in contributing a substantial sum, contingent on the university admitting their child, who currently does not meet the standard academic entry requirements for their chosen program. The university's admissions committee is aware of this situation and is seeking guidance on how to proceed in a manner that is both financially beneficial and ethically sound, adhering to the Africa University Entrance Exam Regulatory Framework. Option A. The admissions committee should create a special admissions category for children of major donors, allowing for a waiver of standard academic requirements in exchange for financial contributions. Option B. The admissions committee should reject the donor's offer and the child's application, as any association with conditional admissions would irrevocably damage the university's reputation, regardless of the potential financial benefit. Option C. The admissions committee should initiate a formal review of the applicant's profile, considering any exceptional circumstances or alternative qualifications that might align with the spirit of the admissions criteria, while also ensuring that any financial contribution from the donor is handled transparently and in accordance with university policy on donations, without any direct linkage to the admission decision. Option D. The admissions committee should approve the admission of the donor's child, provided a significant portion of the promised donation is immediately transferred to the university's operational budget to demonstrate commitment. The correct answer is C. The admissions committee should initiate a formal review of the applicant's profile, considering any exceptional circumstances or alternative qualifications that might align with the spirit of the admissions criteria, while also ensuring that any financial contribution from the donor is handled transparently and in accordance with university policy on donations, without any direct linkage to the admission decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations concerning student welfare and academic integrity. The pressure to secure funding can lead to compromises that violate established guidelines. Careful judgment is required to balance stakeholder interests with the university's core mission and legal responsibilities. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing policies and relevant regulatory frameworks governing university admissions and financial aid, followed by a transparent communication strategy with stakeholders. This approach upholds academic integrity by ensuring that admissions decisions are based on merit and that financial aid is allocated equitably and in accordance with established criteria. It aligns with the principles of good governance and ethical conduct expected of educational institutions, preventing potential reputational damage and legal repercussions. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate funding by relaxing admission standards for students from wealthy backgrounds, even if they do not fully meet academic requirements, represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This undermines the principle of meritocracy, creates an unfair advantage, and potentially violates admissions policies designed to ensure academic rigor. It also risks setting a precedent for future decisions based on financial capacity rather than academic suitability, eroding the university's credibility. Another incorrect approach, which involves creating a separate, less transparent financial aid program for wealthy applicants without clear criteria or oversight, is also professionally unacceptable. This lax transparency can be perceived as discriminatory and may contravene regulations concerning the fair allocation of resources. It also opens the university to accusations of favoritism and could lead to disputes over the equitable distribution of financial support. A third incorrect approach, which involves accepting donations with the implicit understanding that admission will be granted regardless of qualifications, is a direct violation of academic integrity and potentially constitutes a breach of admissions regulations. This practice prioritizes financial gain over educational standards, devalues the achievements of other students, and exposes the university to severe reputational damage and legal scrutiny. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Identifying the core ethical and regulatory principles at stake. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and external regulations. 3. Seeking advice from legal counsel and ethics committees if necessary. 4. Evaluating all potential courses of action against these principles and regulations. 5. Prioritizing long-term institutional integrity and stakeholder trust over short-term gains. 6. Communicating decisions and their rationale transparently to all relevant parties. Question 11. Research into the admissions process for Africa University has revealed a scenario where a prospective student, aware of your role in exam preparation, approaches you seeking insider information to improve their chances of success on the upcoming entrance exam. They specifically ask for hints about the types of questions that will be asked and the key topics to focus on, implying a desire for an unfair advantage. Considering the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines governing university entrance examinations in this jurisdiction, which of the following represents the most appropriate and ethically sound response? Option A. Suggests that the student focus their efforts on memorizing common essay structures and general knowledge without providing any specific information about the exam content. Option B. Politely decline the request, emphasizing the importance of fair competition and academic integrity, and advise the student to prepare thoroughly using the official syllabus and general study materials. Option C. Provide the student with a list of specific topics that are highly likely to appear on the exam, framing it as advanced preparation guidance based on past trends. Option D. Offer to coach the student on how to interpret exam questions in a way that subtly steers them towards the correct answers without explicitly revealing them. The correct answer is B. Politely decline the request, emphasizing the importance of fair competition and academic integrity, and advise the student to prepare thoroughly using the official syllabus and general study materials. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. Pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for a prestigious institution like Africa University, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation ethically and in accordance with the Africa University entrance exams regulatory framework. The correct approach involves upholding the principles of academic honesty and integrity as mandated by the Africa University entrance exams guidelines. This means refusing to engage in or facilitate any form of cheating or academic misconduct. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams typically emphasizes fairness, equal opportunity, and the accurate assessment of a candidate's knowledge and abilities. Providing assistance to a candidate in a manner that compromises these principles would be a direct violation of these ethical and regulatory standards. The university's reputation and the validity of its admissions process depend on the integrity of its examinations. An incorrect approach would be to provide the student with advance information about the exam questions. This directly violates the principle of fair assessment and academic integrity. It gives the student an unfair advantage over other candidates who have prepared through legitimate means, undermining the competitive and merit-based nature of the entrance exam. Such an action would also contravene any explicit regulations within the Africa University entrance exam framework that prohibit the disclosure of examination content. Another incorrect approach would be to offer to help the student by providing general study tips that are so vague they offer no real advantage, while secretly intending to subtly guide them towards specific topics that are known to be on the exam. While not as overt as providing questions, this still constitutes a form of academic dishonesty. It manipulates the spirit of the examination by creating an illusion of legitimate preparation while still providing an unfair advantage. This approach erodes trust and devalues the efforts of honest candidates. A third incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request and hope the issue resolves itself. While this avoids direct complicity, it fails to uphold the professional responsibility to address potential academic misconduct. The Africa University entrance exam framework likely includes provisions for reporting or addressing suspected breaches of integrity. By not acting, the individual fails to contribute to maintaining the exam standards and could inadvertently allow unethical practices to persist. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the relevant regulatory framework and ethical codes. When faced with a request that appears to compromise academic integrity, the professional should 1. Immediately recognize the potential ethical and regulatory conflict. 2. Consult the specific guidelines and regulations of the Africa University entrance exam to confirm prohibited actions. 3. Politely but firmly decline any request that violates these standards, explaining that academic integrity must be maintained. 4. If appropriate and within the scope of their role, report the incident to the relevant university authorities responsible for exam administration and integrity. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are grounded in established principles and protect the fairness and credibility of the examination process. Question 12. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a prospective client, who has expressed a strong desire for rapid capital appreciation, is considering an investment in a highly speculative emerging market fund. The client has provided minimal financial background information and appears to have a limited understanding of the inherent volatility and potential for significant capital loss associated with such an investment. The advisor's primary duty is to ensure the investment is suitable for the client's circumstances and that the client fully understands the associated risks. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the advisor? Option A. Proceed with the investment as requested by the client, assuming their stated desire for rapid capital appreciation overrides the need for extensive risk assessment and suitability checks. Option B. Advise the client that the investment is too risky and refuse to proceed without offering any further explanation or alternative solutions. Option C. Recommend a diversified portfolio of low-risk, stable income-generating assets, disregarding the client's stated objective for rapid capital appreciation. Option D. Engage in a detailed discussion with the client to thoroughly assess their risk tolerance, financial capacity, and understanding of the speculative fund's risks and potential for loss, offering alternative investment strategies if necessary. The correct answer is D. Engage in a detailed discussion with the client to thoroughly assess their risk tolerance, financial capacity, and understanding of the speculative fund's risks and potential for loss, offering alternative investment strategies if necessary. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a client's stated investment objectives and the potential risks associated with a proposed investment strategy. The advisor must navigate the ethical imperative to act in the client's best interest, which includes ensuring suitability and understanding, against the client's desire for potentially aggressive returns. The Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework emphasizes a client-centric approach, requiring thorough due diligence and transparent communication. The correct approach involves a detailed discussion with the client to ascertain their true risk tolerance, financial capacity, and understanding of the proposed investment. This aligns with the ethical duty of care and the regulatory requirement for suitability. By exploring the client's motivations and clarifying the potential downsides, the advisor upholds their fiduciary responsibility and ensures informed consent. This proactive engagement prevents misaligned expectations and potential future complaints. An incorrect approach that proceeds with the investment without further clarification fails to meet the suitability standards. It prioritizes the client's immediate request over a comprehensive assessment of their needs and capacity, potentially exposing them to undue risk. This breaches the ethical obligation to act in the client's best interest and could lead to regulatory sanctions for failing to conduct adequate due diligence. Another incorrect approach, which involves dismissing the client's request outright without exploring the underlying reasons or offering alternatives, demonstrates a lack of client engagement and potentially a failure to identify legitimate, albeit aggressive, investment goals that could be met through carefully managed, higher-risk products. This can damage the client relationship and miss opportunities to serve the client effectively within ethical and regulatory boundaries. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a structured approach. First, actively listen to and understand the client's stated objectives. Second, conduct a thorough risk assessment that goes beyond stated preferences to evaluate actual capacity and tolerance. Third, educate the client on the risks and rewards of any proposed strategy, ensuring they comprehend the implications. And fourth, document all discussions and decisions meticulously. If a proposed strategy remains unsuitable after these steps, alternative, more appropriate options should be presented. Question 13. Comparative studies suggest that while the Africa University entrance exam aims to assess a broad range of academic aptitudes. The pressure to secure a place can sometimes lead to attempts to circumvent the examination process. During the examination, a candidate observes another student exhibiting behavior that strongly suggests they are receiving unauthorized assistance from a hidden device. What is the most appropriate and ethically sound course of action for the observing candidate, strictly adhering to the Africa University entrance exam regulatory framework? Option A. Offer subtle, nonverbal signals to the student to indicate awareness of their actions, hoping they will cease. Option B. Ignore the behavior to avoid potential conflict or involvement, focusing solely on completing one's own examination. Option C. Directly confront the student suspected of cheating to stop their actions. Option D. Discreetly and immediately inform the invigilator or examination supervisor about the observed suspicious behavior, providing specific details without causing disruption. The correct answer is D. Discreetly and immediately inform the invigilator or examination supervisor about the observed suspicious behavior, providing specific details without causing disruption. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for a prestigious institution like Africa University, can lead some students to seek unethical shortcuts. The university's regulatory framework, as per the Africa University entrance exam guidelines, strictly prohibits any form of academic dishonesty. This includes the unauthorized sharing of exam content or the use of external assistance during the examination period. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the examination regulations, which mandate that all candidates complete the exam independently and without any form of unauthorized aid. This aligns with the ethical principles of fairness, honesty, and integrity that underpin academic institutions. Specifically, the Africa University entrance exam guidelines would likely contain clauses on academic misconduct, outlining severe penalties for any breach. Reporting the observed suspicious activity to the invigilator or examination board is the prescribed and ethically sound procedure. This ensures that the integrity of the examination process is maintained and that all candidates are assessed on their own merit, upholding the university's standards. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the suspicious activity. This failure to act constitutes a dereliction of the candidate's responsibility to uphold academic integrity and could be seen as tacit approval of cheating, thereby undermining the fairness of the exam for all other candidates. Directly violates the spirit, if not the letter, of the examination regulations, which expect vigilance from all participants in maintaining a fair testing environment. Another incorrect approach would be to directly confront the other student during the exam. This could lead to disruption of the examination environment, potentially affecting the performance of other candidates, and could be misinterpreted as an attempt to interfere with the exam process, leading to disciplinary action against the intervening student. It bypasses the established protocol for reporting irregularities, which is to inform the invigilator. A third incorrect approach would be to offer assistance to the student suspected of cheating. This is a direct violation of academic integrity rules and could implicate the assisting student in academic misconduct. It actively undermines the examination's purpose of assessing individual knowledge and skills. The professional decision-making process in such a situation requires a clear understanding of the examination's rules and ethical obligations. Professionals must prioritize adherence to regulations, maintain academic integrity, and follow established reporting procedures. When faced with potential misconduct, the immediate and appropriate action is to discreetly inform the designated authority, the invigilator or examination supervisor, who is empowered to investigate and act according to the established protocols. This ensures a fair and just outcome for all involved. Question 14. Compliance review shows a pattern of unusually high scores on the Africa University entrance exam from a specific examination center, with one candidate's performance exhibiting a statistically improbable leap from their previous academic records. The proctor at this center also reported observing the candidate exhibiting nervous behavior and repeatedly looking towards another individual seated nearby during the exam. Which of the following actions should the Africa University entrance exam administration take? Option A. Immediately disqualify the candidate from the entrance exam and ban them from future admissions based on the proctor's observation and the statistical anomaly. Option B. Contact the candidate's previous educational institution to inquire about their academic honesty record without informing the candidate of the ongoing review. Option C. Initiate a formal investigation into the candidate's exam performance and the circumstances at the examination center, following the university's established procedures for academic integrity, and provide the candidate with an opportunity to respond to any findings. Option D. Issue a warning to the examination center supervisor about maintaining exam integrity and allow the candidate's score to stand, assuming no direct proof of cheating. The correct answer is C. Initiate a formal investigation into the candidate's exam performance and the circumstances at the examination center, following the university's established procedures for academic integrity, and provide the candidate with an opportunity to respond to any findings. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for a prestigious institution like Africa University, can lead some students to seek unfair advantages. The compliance officer must navigate this situation with a keen understanding of the Africa University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, which prioritizes fair assessment and upholds the principles of honesty and ethical conduct. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation into the alleged misconduct. This means gathering all relevant evidence, including the student's exam performance, any suspicious patterns identified by proctors, and statements from involved parties. The university's disciplinary procedures, as outlined in its academic regulations, must be strictly followed. This ensures that the student is afforded due process, and any sanctions are applied fairly and consistently. This approach aligns with the ethical imperative to maintain a level playing field for all candidates and to uphold the reputation of the university. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the student based on suspicion alone, without a proper investigation. This violates the principle of natural justice and the university's own disciplinary policies, which require evidence-based decision-making. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the allegations altogether, which would undermine the integrity of the entrance exam and signal a lack of commitment to academic honesty. Furthermore, applying a penalty without understanding the full context or providing the student an opportunity to respond would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. Professionals in this situation should employ a structured decision-making process. This begins with recognizing the seriousness of the allegation and the potential impact on the individual and the institution. Next, it involves consulting the relevant university policies and the Africa University entrance exam's specific guidelines to understand the prescribed procedures for handling academic misconduct. The process then moves to objective evidence gathering, followed by a fair hearing where the student can present their case. Finally, decisions should be made based on the evidence and in accordance with established regulations, ensuring transparency and fairness throughout. Question 15. Regulatory review indicates that a student at Africa University, facing extenuating personal circumstances that have significantly impacted their academic performance in a crucial final examination, approaches their department head requesting a review of their examination paper and a potential adjustment to their grade, citing a perceived unfairness in the marking. The department head is aware of the student's generally strong academic record prior to these circumstances. What is the most appropriate course of action for the department head to take, strictly within the regulatory framework of Africa University? Option A. Advise the student that due to the finality of examinations, no adjustments can be made, regardless of personal circumstances, and suggest they focus on future academic endeavors. Option B. Immediately agree to remark the paper and adjust the grade based on the student's prior academic performance and the department head's personal knowledge of their situation. Option C. Initiate a formal academic appeal process as outlined in the Africa University Student Handbook, ensuring the student is fully informed of the procedures and requirements for submitting their case. Option D. Offer to provide the student with additional tutoring for future courses as a compensatory measure, without addressing the current examination grade. The correct answer is C. Initiate a formal academic appeal process as outlined in the Africa University Student Handbook, ensuring the student is fully informed of the procedures and requirements for submitting their case. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The challenge lies in discerning when a student's request crosses the line from seeking legitimate support to attempting to circumvent established academic processes. Careful judgment is required to uphold the university's standards while also being supportive of genuine student needs. The correct approach involves a thorough investigation of the student's circumstances and the nature of their request, adhering strictly to Africa University's established policies on academic support and assessment appeals. This approach is right because it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to the regulatory framework governing academic conduct at Africa University. By following the prescribed procedures, the university ensures that any decision is based on objective evidence and aligns with its commitment to academic integrity. This upholds the principle of equal treatment for all students and maintains the credibility of the university's assessment processes. An incorrect approach would be to immediately grant the student's request without proper verification. This fails to uphold the university's responsibility to ensure fair and equitable assessment for all students. It could also set a precedent for future students to exploit similar situations, undermining the integrity of the academic system. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's request outright, without any investigation or consideration of their circumstances. This demonstrates a lack of empathy and fails to adhere to the university's duty of care towards its students. It also bypasses the established procedures for addressing student concerns, potentially leading to a perception of unfairness and a breakdown in trust between students and the institution. A third incorrect approach would be to offer a solution that circumvents the established academic appeal process, such as directly altering the student's grade without following due diligence. This directly violates the university's regulatory framework for grade adjustments and appeals, compromising the integrity of the academic record and potentially exposing the university to accusations of bias or impropriety. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Understand the student's request and the underlying reasons. 2. Consult the relevant Africa University policies and guidelines regarding academic support, assessment, and appeals. 3. Gather all necessary information and evidence to objectively assess the situation. 4. Apply the university's policies consistently and fairly. 5. Communicate the decision and the reasoning clearly to the student. 6. Document all steps taken and decisions made. Question 16. Consider a scenario where a prospective student preparing for the Africa University entrance exam discovers an unofficial study guide circulating online, claiming to offer insider tips and guaranteed success for the exam. The student is unsure if this guide is accurate or sanctioned by the university, but feels pressure to perform well. Which of the following actions best reflects adherence to the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for the Africa University entrance exam? Option A. Ignore the unofficial study guide and focus solely on personal study habits without seeking clarification or reporting the discovery. Option B. Rely exclusively on the official study materials provided by Africa University and report the existence of the unofficial guide to the university's admissions office. Option C. Contact the provider of the unofficial study guide to ask for proof of its authenticity and to clarify its content. Option D. Purchase and use the unofficial study guide, assuming it contains valuable information that will improve their chances of success. The correct answer is B. Rely exclusively on the official study materials provided by Africa University and report the existence of the unofficial guide to the university's admissions office. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's immediate desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in a crucial entrance exam, coupled with the availability of potentially misleading information, requires careful ethical and regulatory judgment. The university's regulatory framework, as embodied in its entrance exam guidelines, is designed to ensure a level playing field and to uphold the value of its qualifications. The correct approach involves recognizing the ethical imperative to rely solely on officially sanctioned study materials and to report any suspected irregularities. This aligns with the Africa University Entrance Exam stated guidelines, which emphasize honesty, integrity, and the use of approved resources. By adhering to these guidelines, the student demonstrates respect for the examination process and the university's standards. This approach prioritizes ethical conduct and academic honesty over the temptation of potentially unfair advantage. An incorrect approach would be to utilize the unofficial study guide without verification. This fails to uphold the principle of academic integrity by potentially relying on unverified or inaccurate information, which could lead to a misunderstanding of the syllabus or exam format. It also bypasses the university's established channels for academic support and guidance, undermining the trust placed in the student to engage with the curriculum responsibly. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the discrepancy and proceed with the exam using only the official materials, without reporting the existence of the unofficial guide. This is a failure of proactive ethical engagement. While not actively cheating, it misses an opportunity to uphold the integrity of the examination process by not alerting the university to a potential source of misinformation or unfair advantage for other students who might be using it. This passive approach can indirectly contribute to an uneven playing field. A further incorrect approach would be to directly contact the provider of the unofficial study guide to inquire about its accuracy or to seek clarification on specific topics. This action, while seemingly aimed at understanding the material, risks engaging with an unauthorized source and potentially legitimizing its existence. It also deviates from the established communication channels with the university for academic queries and support, which are designed to ensure all students receive consistent and approved information. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policies and examination regulations. When faced with ambiguous or potentially problematic resources, the first step is to verify their authenticity and authorization. If doubt exists, the safest and most ethical course of action is to rely exclusively on official university-provided materials. Furthermore, any suspected irregularities or the existence of unauthorized study aids that could compromise the fairness of the examination should be promptly reported to the appropriate university authority. This proactive reporting ensures that the institution can address potential issues and maintain the integrity of its assessment processes. Question 17. Strategic planning requires a university to consider the integration of artificial intelligence, AI, into its academic and administrative processes. The university's leadership is exploring options to enhance student support services and streamline administrative tasks. They are presented with several proposals, each with different implications for resource allocation, faculty engagement, and student data management. The leadership must choose an approach that best aligns with the university's mission and regulatory obligations within the African higher education landscape. Which of the following approaches represents the most prudent and ethically sound strategy for integrating AI into the university's operations? Option A. Prioritize the acquisition of the most advanced AI analytics platforms for institutional research, without establishing clear protocols for data governance or addressing potential biases in the AI algorithms. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive pilot program for AI-driven student advising and administrative automation, involving extensive faculty and student feedback, rigorous data privacy impact assessments aligned with African data protection laws, and the development of clear ethical guidelines for AI use before full-scale implementation. Option C. Focus solely on AI tools that automate grading and assessment, assuming this will free up faculty time for research without considering the potential impact on pedagogical approaches or the need for faculty training. Option D. Immediately implement AI-powered chatbots for all student inquiries and administrative support to achieve significant cost reductions and demonstrate technological advancement to stakeholders. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive pilot program for AI-driven student advising and administrative automation, involving extensive faculty and student feedback, rigorous data privacy impact assessments aligned with African data protection laws, and the development of clear ethical guidelines for AI use before full-scale implementation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the university's strategic planning process must navigate the complex landscape of academic integrity, resource allocation, and the ethical implications of adopting new technologies. The pressure to innovate and enhance the student experience must be balanced against the need for robust, compliant, and equitable implementation. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any strategic decision aligns with the university's mission, values, and the regulatory framework governing higher education in Africa. The correct approach involves a comprehensive assessment of the proposed AI integration, focusing on its alignment with the university's strategic goals, potential impact on academic quality, and adherence to ethical guidelines and data privacy regulations specific to African higher education. This includes a thorough risk assessment, stakeholder consultation, and the development of clear policies and training programs. This approach is correct because it prioritizes a responsible and sustainable integration of technology, ensuring that innovation serves the core educational mission while mitigating potential harms and complying with relevant legal and ethical standards. It demonstrates a commitment to good governance and the long-term well-being of the university community. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the perceived cost savings of AI, without a thorough evaluation of its impact on teaching quality or student learning outcomes, fails to uphold the university's primary educational mandate. This approach risks compromising academic standards and potentially violating ethical obligations to provide a high-quality education. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes rapid adoption of AI for competitive advantage without establishing clear ethical guidelines or data protection protocols exposes the university to significant legal and reputational risks. This overlooks the critical need for compliance with data privacy laws and ethical considerations regarding the use of student data, which are paramount in the African higher education context. A third incorrect approach that dismisses the need for extensive faculty training and support for AI tools, assuming faculty will adapt independently, ignores the practical realities of technological integration. This can lead to underutilization of the technology, resistance from staff, and a failure to achieve the intended strategic benefits, potentially undermining the overall strategic plan. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the strategic objectives. Second, conduct a thorough feasibility and impact assessment, considering academic, ethical, financial, and operational dimensions. Third, engage in broad stakeholder consultation. Fourth, develop a detailed implementation plan that includes risk mitigation, policy development, and training. Finally, establish mechanisms for ongoing monitoring and evaluation to ensure the strategy remains effective and compliant. Question 18. The investigation demonstrates that a student, facing significant personal financial hardship, has been accused of submitting work that bears a striking resemblance to that of a previously submitted assignment by another student in a prior academic year. The student claims the similarities are coincidental and due to their reliance on the same limited course materials, but has provided no independent evidence to support this claim. The university's academic integrity policy clearly outlines procedures for investigating allegations of plagiarism and academic misconduct. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and professionally responsible course of action for the university to take in response to this situation? Option A. Immediately suspend the student from the university for a period of 1 academic year, citing the strong evidence of plagiarism. Option B. Initiate a formal investigation into the alleged academic misconduct, following the university's established disciplinary procedures for students, which includes providing the student with an opportunity to respond to the allegations and present evidence. Option C. Accept the student's explanation of coincidental similarities due to limited course materials and close the case without further inquiry. Option D. Advise the student to withdraw from the university voluntarily to avoid a formal disciplinary record. The correct answer is A. Immediately suspend the student from the university for a period of 1 academic year, citing the strong evidence of plagiarism. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's academic aspirations and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to succeed, coupled with potential personal circumstances, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. Navigating this requires a delicate balance of empathy, adherence to university policy, and upholding the principles of fair assessment. The challenge lies in identifying the appropriate course of action that respects the student's situation while safeguarding the integrity of the academic process. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation into the alleged academic misconduct, adhering strictly to the Africa University's established disciplinary procedures for students. This procedure, as outlined in the university's official regulations, mandates a fair hearing process, allowing the student to present their case and evidence. The investigation must be conducted without prejudice, focusing on factual evidence and the university's policies on academic integrity. This approach is correct because it upholds the university's commitment to academic honesty, ensures due process for the student, and maintains the credibility of the institution's qualifications. It aligns with the ethical principle of fairness and the regulatory requirement to follow established procedures. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that immediately imposes a severe penalty without a formal investigation fails to adhere to the university's disciplinary procedures. This bypasses the student's right to a fair hearing and to present their defense, violating principles of natural justice and due process. It also risks an unjust outcome if the initial suspicion is unfounded or if mitigating circumstances are not considered. An approach that dismisses the allegations solely based on the student's expressed remorse or personal difficulties, without a proper investigation into the evidence of misconduct, is also professionally unacceptable. While empathy is important, it cannot override the university's obligation to investigate and address potential breaches of academic integrity. This approach risks undermining the university's standards and setting a precedent that academic misconduct can be excused without due diligence. An approach that involves seeking external advice from individuals not authorized by the university's disciplinary procedures, or that relies on hearsay and speculation rather than verifiable evidence, is also flawed. This can compromise the integrity of the investigation, introduce bias, and lead to decisions not grounded in the university's established regulatory framework. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situations should first consult and strictly follow the university's official policies and procedures for handling academic misconduct. This involves understanding the defined steps for investigation, evidence gathering, student notification, and the hearing process. A commitment to impartiality and fairness is paramount. Decision-making should be evidence-based, ensuring that any action taken is proportionate to the proven offense and in line with the university's stated principles and regulations. If there is any ambiguity in the procedures, seeking clarification from the designated university authorities responsible for academic integrity is the appropriate step. Question 19. The analysis reveals that a candidate preparing for the Africa University entrance exam is concerned about the breadth of the syllabus and the competitive nature of the admissions process. They are considering how best to approach the examination to maximize their chances of success while remaining within the bounds of academic integrity. Which of the following strategies best reflects an approach that is compliant with the principles of academic integrity and the likely regulatory framework of a university entrance examination? Option A. Focusing on thorough revision of all syllabus topics, practicing with past papers under timed conditions, and ensuring all work submitted is entirely their own, without recourse to any external aids not explicitly permitted by the exam guidelines. Option B. Arranging to discreetly communicate with a fellow candidate during the examination to cross-reference answers on challenging questions. Option C. Consulting a comprehensive set of unofficial study guides that are known to cover advanced topics not explicitly mentioned in the official syllabus, believing this will provide a competitive edge. Option D. Utilizing online forums to find pre-written essays or answers to common essay questions that can be adapted for their responses, aiming to present polished and well-articulated arguments. The correct answer is A. Focusing on thorough revision of all syllabus topics, practicing with past papers under timed conditions, and ensuring all work submitted is entirely their own, without recourse to any external aids not explicitly permitted by the exam guidelines. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. Pressure to perform well in a university entrance exam, especially one as significant as the Africa University entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to navigate these pressures while adhering strictly to the exam's regulatory framework. The correct approach involves understanding and strictly adhering to the Africa University entrance exam's stated guidelines regarding permissible resources and collaboration. This means relying solely on one's own knowledge and understanding, as demonstrated through independent work. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the exam's purpose of assessing individual aptitude and knowledge. It upholds the principles of fairness and equal opportunity for all candidates, ensuring that the assessment accurately reflects each student's capabilities without external or unauthorized assistance. An incorrect approach that involves consulting unauthorized study materials during the exam would be a direct violation of the Africa University entrance exam's regulations. This constitutes academic dishonesty, undermining the validity of the assessment and creating an unfair advantage over other candidates. Such an action would also demonstrate a lack of integrity, a core value expected of university students. Another incorrect approach, seeking assistance from a fellow candidate during the exam, also breaches the exam's rules against collaboration. This not only compromises the individual assessment of both parties, but also violates the principle of independent work. It suggests an unwillingness to engage with the material independently and a reliance on others to achieve success, which is contrary to the goals of higher education. A third incorrect approach, fabricating answers or plagiarizing content from external sources not permitted by the exam, is a severe form of academic misconduct. This misrepresents the candidate's knowledge and understanding, leading to an inaccurate evaluation of their abilities. It also demonstrates a disregard for intellectual honesty and the foundational principles of academic pursuit. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the specific rules and regulations governing the assessment. Candidates must internalize the ethical expectations of academic integrity. When faced with pressure or uncertainty, the professional response is to seek clarification from exam administrators if permitted, or to proceed with the knowledge and resources that are explicitly allowed. Prioritizing honesty and adherence to rules, even when challenging, is paramount to maintaining personal and academic integrity. Question 20. Benchmark analysis indicates that during the Africa University entrance exam, a proctor observes a candidate discreetly using a mobile phone, likely to access unauthorized information. The proctor is aware of the exam's strict regulations regarding academic integrity and the procedures for handling such violations. What is the most appropriate course of action for the proctor to take in this situation? Strictly adhering to the Africa University entrance exam's regulatory framework. Option A. Ignore the incident to avoid disrupting the examination environment and potentially causing a scene. Option B. Immediately confiscate the student's phone and escort them out of the examination hall, informing the chief invigilator of the observed violation. Option C. Discreetly signal to the student to stop using the phone and continue monitoring the rest of the candidates. Option D. Approach the student privately after the exam to discuss their actions and advise them to refrain from such behavior in the future. The correct answer is B. Immediately confiscate the student's phone and escort them out of the examination hall, informing the chief invigilator of the observed violation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for prestigious institutions like Africa University, can lead some students to seek unfair advantages. Navigating this requires a strong understanding of the Africa University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, which prioritizes ethical conduct and the validity of the assessment process. The correct approach involves upholding the integrity of the examination process by reporting the observed misconduct. This aligns with the core principles of academic honesty and the regulatory framework of the Africa University entrance exam, which mandates that all candidates participate fairly and that any attempts to subvert the examination process are addressed. Reporting ensures that the assessment remains a true measure of a candidate's knowledge and abilities, and that the university's standards are maintained. This action is ethically sound and legally defensible under the exam's governing regulations, which likely include provisions against cheating and a requirement for proctors to report such incidents. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed misconduct. This failure to act would undermine the fairness of the examination for all other candidates and would be a dereliction of the proctor's duty as defined by the Africa University entrance exam's guidelines. It implicitly condones unethical behavior and compromises the integrity of the entire assessment. Another incorrect approach would be to confront the student directly and attempt to resolve the issue without involving the appropriate university authorities. This could escalate the situation, potentially compromise the evidence, and bypass the established procedures for handling academic misconduct as outlined by the Africa University Entrance Exams regulations. It also places the proctor in a potentially unsafe or confrontational situation, which is not their designated role. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to report the misconduct to an external party not designated by the Africa University Entrance Exams framework, such as a news outlet or a general online forum. This would violate confidentiality protocols and would not ensure the proper investigation and adjudication of the incident according to the university's established procedures. A professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Immediate observation and documentation of the suspected misconduct. 2. Adherence to the Africa University Entrance Exams established protocol for reporting irregularities, which typically involves informing the chief invigilator or designated examination official. 3. Allowing the university's authorized personnel to handle the investigation and disciplinary actions. This systematic approach ensures that the exam's integrity is protected, ethical standards are upheld, and due process is followed.